Right. I understand there's a positive aspect, but I think in a way we have to go through like a trial by fire as a culture. In other words, we're going to go through this ugly time first. And where we come out on the end of this ugly time, it's anyone's guess. But those of you who are TIs, again, you know who you are. Can I say this? If you think you are, you might be. And what are the statistics on that? For people who think they are, how many of them turn out to actually be targeted individuals?
I'm sure it's a gray scale. When you say targeted, it's often black and white. I'm sure they're in the experimentation. There are people we found that just get B2K, and the B2K is only positive, although that's a rare case. Usually it's always negative messaging. Some people get tortured. Some people get both. And it runs the gamut. So you can imagine if you're trying to test a new drug, you want a random sample and you want to pull out all the different variables. And it's called discriminant function analysis. And so you want to test it on different people in different types of variations of the hypnosis, of the mind control, of the stalking, and to see what is most effective.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, people that have, if you don't think those thoughts are your thoughts, and you keep getting these negative thought patterns, or even, like you say, positive thought patterns. I had a vision from God. I have all this going on, or I have a new pathway. I suddenly, or I want to commit suicide or something. I mean, do you go to the suicide group and then you realize it's not your thought, but you feel like you're being beamed? Do you go to the suicide support group or do you go to the TI support group? I mean, if you go to the suicide support group and you say, I'm getting all these thoughts beamed into my head, they're going to think you're a schizophrenic right off the bat.
Oh, yeah, you'll be labeled immediately. Yeah, and that's a given. And then you'll be given drugs that may or may not help. So that's a difficult question. The victims that I've studied, they almost all got the full-on testing, so there was no doubt that they were TIs. So people that may just be getting brought into the program, well, maybe if they know too much, the program won't be effective, and they'll give up on them. So in these radio shows and books are very important, at least in my mind, to spoil and ruin a lot of their data that they're gathering.
Okay. Well, this is, unfortunately for some of you, this may be a painful topic, but, you need to get the information. There is help out there. These are, groups, and I suppose they have to be self-policing because there could be infiltrators into those groups, those support groups for being a TI. If you feel they are on the internet, you can get information. I've got a couple of resources here, and let me see what you guys think about this. It's freedomfchs.com. Freedom from
covert harassment and surveillance.
Okay, that would be a good one. Raven1.net. I guess she was Eleanor White was really the first one I ever read that had even dealt with this subject. And, mindjustice.org is another one. Americans, Thought Control, Mind Control, Disinformation, and Other Naughty Things by Moss David Posner. I guess that's some sort of report. Microwave Harassment and Mind Control Experimentation, and Federation Against Mind Control Europe. Another one is the study of U.S. intelligence community human rights violations and continuing research in electromagnetic weapons. That's a PDF document. And I want to know, Dr. Duncan, where can we get your books? Amazon?
Amazon.com. Secrets of Cyber and Cybernetic Warfare. The title's Project Soulcatcher.
Okay, I'm going to have those links and the pictures of those books. When we produce the show as a podcast, I will have all of that. You click on the picture, you'll go right to the link. You can go there and get the book. Otherwise, is there any other bookseller I'm sure would have? If you don't have internet, you can just call up whoever go to your Borders bookstore or go to your Barnes and Noble or one of those, and you can order it there, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, you can get any book anytime. There's no excuse not to get a book. Is there an e-book available?
Right now, no, not for my books. I am thinking of putting it on Kindle, but it's not on there yet.
Okay. Now, do you have a website? I've looked and I found one that was all Chinese. But I can't understand this.
There actually is a Chinese support group called Peace Pink, and they have their electromagnetic groups, experimentation groups there, support groups. There's one in Russia as well. I do not have a website. I don't have time to maintain it. I know Dr. Hall does.
I know, and I've got that on the site. That's satweapons.com, right?
.com. And if anybody has any questions about Dr. Duncan's book, you can email me through that website, and I can certainly pass on the information on where to get his book. It is a must-read to understand this technology. I'm a medical doctor. Compared to him, I'm definitely a fat girl at this prom. So, if you really want to
come on,
understand
that's being me. No. Look, I need both. Okay, I need the new breed. I need a new breed, Satellite Terrorism in America by Dr. John Hall, and I need to also read Dr. Duncan to get the whole, by Dr. Robert Duncan to get the entire, the other side. I need both sides of this: the personal side, the technological side. Where these, and also Dr. John Hall, you are involved with targeted individuals, with helping them, because I know quite a few they've contacted you and gotten help that way.
Yeah, I work with a lot of people, at least trying to get them to go down some of the same pathways that we've talked about, because invariably they think it's their upstairs neighbor or the neighbor across the street, and it's mainly trying to explain the technology to them so they don't do something to victimize themselves.
In my case, the neighbor moved away. After I prayed that they would move away.
But it didn't stop after that, did it?
No, it didn't stop. But then it did stop, And then I had somebody actually email me and say he was doing it from Australia, but he was lying. I knew that. I got the impression that he was just making, because I'd mentioned it on a broadcast. See what I mean? So someone steps up and go, I was doing that to you, and he apologized for having sent those kind of messages. But then what I realized later was, now this was a definite thing, just like you turn on a light switch, that you turn on your stereo or TV. It was like that. No, but again, it's been many years. I've been left alone. So am I free? Either one. Am I free now that I've been left alone? I haven't had that experience for a few years.
Time will tell.
Oh. Okay.
I've heard of other people that have been released for a time, and then they're brought back into the project. So don't give up the fight just because you may be free.
Well, what I'm trying to do with my situation is I'm trying to bring logic to. I'm trying to bring a better understanding. Just for this is a personal show for me because I'm trying to understand. Because I know that a lot of the time I've been quiet. At one point, I was pretty wild on go. I went out live on the internet in 2002, and that probably saved my life. But I was pretty out there in terms of explaining stuff that was happening to me. And one guy that was a listener, he was a doctor, and he gave me a clean bill of health and a clean bill of mental health, and then signed it as a legal document because he said you might need this if they try to throw you in the loony bin. So obviously I made the mistake, but I didn't know what else to do. I was all alone. I didn't know what else to do. So I went forward on the internet thinking that, that's what I should do. And nothing happened to me. In other words, I survived, obviously, And
that's the fight we're trying to fight right now, too, is to educate the psychiatric community that this technology does exist. Because at the very top, American Psychiatric Association, they damn well know that this technology exists. At the community level, the psychiatrist that you're going to be sent to in your hometown probably is largely ignorant of the technology and is just going to fulfill the requirements of the DSM-4 to give you a diagnosis, and that's up to us to change that through education.
Well, when they diagnosed me, I had everything I had all kinds of like paranoia and borderline personality and all kinds of terms, that just explained that I couldn't really function in society because, I was getting interrupted, if you will. But anyway, I've also tried to understand how this works together with the demonic and the satanic, because there are people, I think we would all agree, walking around as programmed, it seems, by demons. They're just not the same as who they were, and they're in need of an exorcism. I mean, what say you, either one, about exorcism today and deliverance?
Well, I can't talk to the spiritual level, but there is a weapon system discussed in my book called Satan, and it stands for Silence is Fascination Through Adapting Networks. So you can imagine you have a behavioral modification tool, weapon. You can have dial-in lethality simply by manipulating the humans themselves to hurt themselves. And it uses all the best medical discoveries except in the negative. Fire can be used to keep people warm and heat food, kill bacteria, or it can be used to burn down villages. And so this is an extreme example of weaponization of the medical profession.
Okay. Well, so if anyone feels they're targeted, there are support groups. Do you think these support groups are legit? How do you know that? Okay, here's a good question. How would you know something is wrong with a support group?
There are many things wrong with most of the support groups, and that's just natural dysfunctionality. Okay. People are on edge. People are being tortured. And yes, maybe you'll find an infiltrator who is trying to stir the pot for no reason. But I found that the support groups, they can be helpful. You get information, but you can get sucked into them, and they become infighting. And unfortunately, you're bringing together people of all walks of life under duress. You're going to have a lot of that infighting.
Well, I don't mind that. What I mind is that it becomes another experiment. That
in a way, it is. It's what they study in the intelligence agencies is how to develop relationships. This is published in DARPA as one of their projects with lifelong understanding of the development of relationships, as well as how to disrupt human networks. So you can imagine, that, yes, they probably are part of an experiment.
Well, all right. Look, we're just about out of time. Again, Dr. Robert Duncan, I thank you so much for being here. You don't have a website. The books, I will have those links, Amazon.com, and Dr. John Hall. As always, Dr. John Hall also is a broadcaster and has, you've got a whole venture there, but you can contact him. I'll get more links up on our show so they can follow your shows as well. You've done a lot, Dr. Hall. You've done a lot in terms of, being an activist out there, and and a lot of people really look up to you, and they're just really thankful that you came forward. But you are a leader among men, as it were. You're out there bringing awareness to this. But we're all out of time. I thank you both for being here.